Yeah, Rap Radar Podcast, Elliot Wilson.
My name is B-Dot.
B-Dot, LA, Los Angeles.
We're
Look at this
back.
beautiful location.
This is like someone's crib. It's a home away from home.
Home away from home, man, Los Angeles. And this guy's from Los Angeles, man. The behind-the-scenes guy. Doesn't do a lot of interviews.
I looked.
Chace Infinite, man.
Yes, sir.
Responsible for a lot of ASAP Rocky success. And I saw him with this Griselda movement, that whole Roc Nation Griselda.
When I saw that, I was interested. I was like, yo, Elliot, we got to talk to this guy.
Yeah, it seems like him and hip hop, Kayamba Joshua, they were the ones responsible for bringing Westside Gunn and Benny to Roc Nation. So I want to talk about that. Talk about Rocky. You know, this guy used to rap too.
Yeah, I heard self-scientific.
Got some bars.
He got some raps.
Some atomically flows.
We'll get into all that and more.
Let's get into it, man. Rap Radar Podcast, Chace Infinite, title.
Yeah, self-scientific niggas. I got a personal religion in which I envision the unison of science and faith in the same.
They say they love it when we do the behind the scenes people, man.
I think so. It feels like we are on a run with those guys.
I mean, this guy rarely talks, man. I'm trying to look on YouTube. This interview's from like 1999.
Yeah.
I saw one interview, but here we are with a second.
Here we are,
Chace
official,
Infinite.
man.
Right.
This is Chace Infinite.
Peace
How are
to
you,
you brothers,
sir?
man. Thank you guys for
ASAP
having me.
Rocky's manager.
Yes.
But what hit the radar recently was
Former manager, actually.
Former
manager, yeah,
Okay.
actually.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Rocky.
Yes, sir.
What hit the radar recently was this Griselda. We saw Westside Gunn. We saw Benny. We saw these power moves of Roc Nation. And then I come to
Right.
find out you have some involvement in that.
Yeah. Like you said, man, I've been doing this for a minute. Both as an artist, as a creative, and then as an executive. And the Westside Gunn, the Griselda thing actually happened as a result of me just being a fan and a friend. You know, at first we gained a relationship, me just actually on a peripheral, after Danny Brown put me onto his music. And then every time he come to LA, we just build. He'd come by the shop, or I'd show up at apartment 4B to come check some of his new material, or buy some merch or something like that. And obviously he knew what I had done in the past with Rocky and Strong Arm Steady or whatever and other groups. And he had a appreciation for what I've done as an executive and then just my taste, I think.
Talking about Westside Gunn in particular?
Westside Gunn in particular.
Yeah.
Rocky's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I think most people know that story, that know Rocky. But the Westside Gunn thing just really happened as a result of me just being a fan. And then me and hip hop, Kayamba Joshua, who's my partner with Agency 78.
Yeah. Hop. Shout out to Hop.
Yep.
Hop is my partner, and we
Wasn't there like two other guys in the agency? Like it's like I
Yeah.
never was clear on how many partners are in this Agency 78.
Yeah, so originally, to backtrack, I guess, real quick, I was trying to answer the Westside
sorry. My bad, my
Westside Gun
bad.
question. The Westside Gun question, it just basically happened as a result of our relationship.
Yeah.
And then hip hop and I were both in this situation where I stopped managing Rocky in January, actually. A lot of people don't know because we haven't made an announcement or nothing like that, and that's still my brother, like really. So we stopped working in January, but I'd obviously been busy with all the Haroon stuff and all this other stuff that I was doing, but wasn't really actively looking to have another management position or manage somebody necessarily, because I just figured I'd evolve kind of point past that point. And I didn't necessarily want to do day-to-day management, just a little bit too much involved. I'm doing more community stuff.
You've been doing it
like
nonstop since Rocky launched, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, pretty much the last 8-9 years of my life has been pretty much that. So, I wasn't have a real desire to be a manager like that, but because of our relationship, and he knew that how close me and hip hop are. Me and hip hop is just probably one of my best friends in terms of like people I've met in the industry, probably closer than anybody. So we formed this company again. We hadn't really solidified clients just yet. We just knew that we wanted to do it again because we had started Agency 78 before in 2011 with Hawaii Mike Simon, Mecca Obi, myself, and hip hop. And then probably loosely at the time, but he was doing his own thing with Sycamore.
Sycamore's in the mix too.
Yeah, Sycamore. That's like our brother though.
Yeah.
As well. Me and hip hop at Sycamore, when I was living in New York, spent a lot of time together. I used to go to hip hop's crib all the time, and they would always come to Prohibit, where I actually met Rocky. So in the beginning, we were actually supposed to be me, hip hop, Mecca, Mike. We were all working together and supposed to do the ASAP release kind of independently before he went and signed a deal, which is why Rocky's first show was at A-Live for Danny Brown's Triple X release party at A-Live, because at the time, hip hop had bought into A-Live. He had a small percentage of ownership in A-Live. And I was like, yo, I wasn't even managing Rocky. I was just like, I had told Rocky and I wanted to do marketing for him. I helped him with the marketing shit. Yeah. And because of opportunities like that. So hip hop was like, man, have him perform at this fucking shit we doing at A-Life. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Because Danny was coming to my shop every day, smoking weed, like everything just kind of worked.
Yeah.
So fast forward, because of all that history, you know, people that are, you know, kind of on the inside of the industry, people like yourself, Beat Out, you guys kind of know like some of that history or probably have heard.
No, of course.
So people like Westside Gun, obviously, you know, heard how close me and hip hop are, opportunities we had before. So as soon as he, you know, he kind of had this this vision before. They had been dealing with Roc Nation about a year, 2 years ago in an effort. Some people inside of Roc Nation were really trying to get them over there because they were fans of Westside Gun and Benny. But internally, I think they just hadn't figured out who they could trust on their side in order to facilitate that relationship. You know, Gun's a visionary. He's a creative. He's an artist. He's a person that's putting together, you know, a new version of something that's truly nostalgic. So it's hard. I think it was hard for him to figure out how to navigate the course of taking Griselda from this phenomenon he created into like something.
And then not be compromised. And he's so proud of the catalog.
And then he didn't have, and then it was, I think, you know, just from talking to him, it was hard for him to figure out like, who the fuck even understands like what I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing this, I got Pete Rock and fucking Alchemist and I'm, you know, but I'm over here wearing all these chains and shit and I got these dudes over here. Like, so I probably, when I look at it, it's not too many people that would probably understand how to like put that into you know, besides me and Hop. You know, we're probably, me and Hop are opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of personality, but you know, in terms of like being absolute nerds and about this shit though, like we the same.
What made you, you know, become a fan
of Westside Gun?
Of Griselda?
Danny put me on. Okay. Danny Brown was like, you know, everybody knows Danny's like a.
But just musically from Griselda, like what was it about their music?
I'm 45, so so you know it's hard, but I'm not one of these old head like caught up dudes either. You know what I'm saying? But
stuck in the 90s.
Stuck in the 90s. Mentality wise, I might be. But in terms of sonically, I understand like, you know, but it's hard to move that forward. So the thing that made me a fan of Griselda is the fact that they were able to like capture the ethos of, you know, they capture the ethos of a perspective in a time that I really that I grew up in that helped form a lot of my personal identity. But then the way that they present it is through a really modern lens. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like, you know, they can have some of the same themes as people that you might consider, you know, popular music and shit like that. But the way that they curate their experience is based upon, you know, an ethos and an aesthetic that's a little bit more closer to the shit that helped shape me during a certain era. So I gravitated towards that because most of the time when you do that, it sounds corny as fuck. Right. Like most people nowadays, when you're trying to create, we got a 90s sound popping, we're trying to make it sound like the 90s. It's like you just automatically thinking like somebody trying to, you know.
Was it specific songs or an album in particular?
The specific song. You know, the Fly God album probably was the thing that took me over the top.
Yeah.
The whole album.
That's my joint.
Yeah, the whole album was probably what took me over the top. Believe it or not, the thing that probably made me a fan of Griselda overall was probably the Cow by Conway.
Okay.
When he describes like, you know, what happened to him when he got shot. It's before I knew a lot of information behind him, so it was just compelling to me to hear him put that in the verse. Like it wasn't even a Gun song, it was actually a Conway song. And then that made me like, that put me over the top in terms of like as far as a fan it was the Cow by Conway. And then it kind of made me just dig deeper in terms of like, what's it all about? And discovering Mock and then discovering Benny in the process of like, it just reminded me how you would, you know, you get into a Wu-Tang release or Mobb Deep release and out of nowhere it's like, well, who the fuck verse was that? Like, you know, it's like, wait, what's this in Mock Homie? Who the fuck is this nigga? Right. Like, you know, it's like, it's a whole thing. So that's what got me into it. You saw like, and it's very, very seldom in this day and time when you get some shit like that, it feels like authentic and not corny.
And what do you make of Benny's emergence? It seemed like he's really capturing the moment. Like,
I think
conversation is like best lyricist in the game.
It's crazy. It's crazy,
definitely,
but I think
top 3.
Yeah, I saw that. I retweeted. I reposted it.
We're gonna get into that because I know Chace got some short films.
That matters.
Chace said Black Thought is still alive. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget that.
Oh yeah. Listen, I retweeted because it has weight because you said it, but we can get into it. You know what I'm saying? Black Thought is still alive. Let's not even play. Don't even play with Tariq Trotter. And I know y'all gonna get caught up into, but what is he? Fuck all that. If you listening, If you listening,
Yes.
I don't want to. If we doing this same shit we've been doing,
he's big on.
I don't want to
Black
hear
Thought.
about none of that shit. I will play awesome shit off my phone and fuck y'all up right now.
You got some exclusive Benny?
I got some exclusive Benny. That's some exclusive Black Thought though. just on some fan shit.
Yeah.
I'm ready for all the arguments. You know
No,
what?
but back to Benny taking the momentum. It seems like Benny's really like within that movement. He's having this individual moment where I think a lot of eyes are on him now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Who's right now? Who the fuck? I mean, I don't know. Who you tell me? Yeah. It's not too many people that are, putting it together. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, and this shit we've been doing for so long, man. It's like, you can appreciate people for several things, right? Some people I appreciate for their sense of humor, their dexterity lyrically for how they're able to, do that much alliteration and still make sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? How some people, have an incredible pocket or a cadence. They're able to run the beat over sometimes and make you feel like there's another rhythm inside this shit. Yeah. Some motherfuckers are just straight up and down conventional and just know how to evoke emotion. Benny's that to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's true.
We've yet to see him like do some of the other shit that he can, because I've heard it. But what you really get from him is just like a really honest and visceral approach to like street shit but it's not surface. And it doesn't need to be descriptive and extra like over the top in terms of like graphic. Yeah. You know what I mean? He just certain shit when he say shit like the rental's a second home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I forget how he said I'm fucking rhyme up. But he said like, he was basically making reference to a rental being a second home. Yeah. And if you haven't been like, through
those experiences,
like, but when you have, or when he's able to make something that's really complex and emotion that's really complex, like, I think that's what people are getting from Benny right now. And it's the same type. And then also because he's had or grew up in an era where he had people like Jay-Z and Nas like that to draw from, the thing that I appreciate for him, even though his style isn't necessarily, he's not running the beat over or doing triplets and no shit like that, but you still can't predict where the rhyme scheme is coming from, only because the level of thought is like, you know what I'm saying?
Stacked, yeah.
Yeah, it's stacked.
So what's it like being I know you're really low key in the business, like when you guys did the big ASAP deal with Arcee, you guys kept it low key. We heard about the deal, but here with the Roc Nation, we see Jay-Z in the meeting, we see the cameras on. Like, what was that? Why did you guys decide to do such a big christening of it to capture
I think it's necessary. With Rocky, I can't really speak for the Rocky situation back then. I think that was more of like, if I'm correct, you probably have to ask Rocky to be sure. But I think it was more so because, Rocky got a big deal. And, and he wasn't moving out of Harlem right away and, all that stuff. So it wasn't like, he didn't want to make a huge deal of that right away. Even though it did get out, I don't think he wanted to make a huge deal about the money and exactly what he was getting right away, only because it was like, you just don't want the extra attention. Yeah. Whereas with this, first of all, this wasn't a record deal. Currently Conway, Benny, and Gunn are all signed to Shady on the record side and have releases that are coming out, through Shady. But this was a management situation. And when you get, and I don't know, you've been doing this a long time. Dude. I don't know too many artists that are upcoming, commercial, underground, whatever the fuck, that have Eminem and Jay-Z that are vested in their development. When you sign to Eminem and Shady, and then you got Jay-Z that's actually coming to the table to partner with his longtime little brother and friend, hip hop, and us for this management. So having that type of opportunity to me was just like, how many artists do you get that are, in 2019? They got Alchemist and Pete Rock and people like this listed as producers, and then the themes that they're talking about. You don't have like, there's not your normal pop stars on the hooks on this shit and shit like this. It's like primarily this is just ill rhymes and just ill beats, just period. You know what I'm saying? And you got Jay-Z and Eminem at the highest level of this shit that we call hip hop. Commercially, like, okay, I want to fuck with y'all. So to me, it was just an opportunity. What I see is like, in terms of the energy, right? Outside of my own personal likes and interests, like we've just gotten to a point with the streaming that, we're just kind of, you can curate your own experience. The playlists are like radio or even more powerful than radio, but in terms of like what they represent are like radio, and the way that you amplify your messages through these digital service providers now is just a lot easier for you to create an avenue commercially for things that have, I'm not going to say more substance, but just have and in terms of hip hop that are just based on jazz, like, you know what I'm saying? Just sonically.
Yeah.
So I see a whole movement that shit coming, and because that's a little bit closer to my personal, compass in terms of like likes and interests, and me and hip hop, I think, we're just taking the time to work with more groups like that. But I see like a whole wave of that shit. You see it happening when you look at some of the playlists and shit like that, how they're starting to get, you start to see, even just within our own genre, how this shit starts to get fragmented. It's like, it's okay, it's the old school shit. Okay, this is like this is the trap shit. Okay, this is the so-and-so shit. This is the avant-garde jazz shit.
Did it take a long time for the situation to come to fruition? Like, did it take Jay some convincing to want to get in business with Griselda?
No, actually. I mean, if I'm gonna be real, I think a lot of this was a result like of, Westside Gunn being a visionary, but Jay also still being very in tune and a fan of this shit and shit that he likes. I know that he's, appreciative of Makami and Westside Gunn and Griselda and, several artists that are quote unquote underground that you wouldn't think that Jay-Z knows about, but he's completely fucking in tune and really knows about. So this is something that he actually had tasked Hop like, yo, what's popping? Let's get this shit done too. So it wasn't like it was like we had to go
convince it.
No, it wasn't like I'll make it seem like that at all. We just actually all came together in the interest of, pushing for something forward that we think is like dope for their culture, even though I hate that fucking word.
The gun looks super excited, man.
Oh no, he gotta be, man. He is though. And he deserves it, man. He been putting this shit together. Like, his story's an incredible story, man. This is supposed to, ordinarily you're supposed to be like whatever 10-year-old, upstart with this type of opportunity. But the fact that he had that much conviction and shit that he started to build with his brother and his cousin and got to this point, like, I just, it's just a lot of, it's only more good things that can happen.
Yeah. What attracts you to movements like what you said, we're going back to Rocky. Again, it was a historic time when Rocky dropped the mixtape and everybody was a bidding war. Everybody wanted to sign him. But it was important for you guys not to just sign Rocky, but sign the whole ASAP Mob movement. Like, talk about that, and why did you see like it was more than just about Rocky at that time? Yeah, well,
I can't speak completely because all that particular visionary, that portion of it was ASAP Yams. ASAP Yams was, for sure, rest in peace with my brother. But, he was the visionary behind that entire development. How he saw that, Ferg being the second person out, Rocky being the first and kind of voice of ASAP. And, so that was in his original design, coming into the building, regardless of where they went. He always wanted to make a platform for ASAP Worldwide and the ASAP Mob overall to get light. I mean, everything from ASAP Ant actually becoming a rapper, Ferg actually, Ferg was, and everybody knows the story, but Ferg was, selling clothes and doing all type of fashion, and artists and stuff. But it was kind of Yams and Rocky that, gave him the focus. Like, nah, you're gonna be a rapper. You're gonna do this shit because you dope as fuck. Like, they all like really Yams
push each other creatively.
Yeah, Yams was a really visionary in terms of like the business, like structuring their stuff. He came to myself, Geno Sims, and Brian Leach to help him, to carve that out and amplify it at the time and actually make it a reality, because there were certain things he didn't know how to do in terms of the business. But in terms of the vision, I mean, it was really, Yams and Rocky, man. I should tell people all the time, like, I was, the ASAP situation was good for me and I was good for it because everything that I had been through prior to ASAP was useful in that experience. Like, running clothing companies and failing, and working at retail stores and failing, and being a manager and being partly successful, being an artist and, being whatever. Like,
and not going to the level you may have
next
wanted,
level and realizing like, fuck, and people, I used to always say like, man, if I just had a young motherfucker like me, I used to always say that shit like that. And then it just kind of happened with, Rocky and Yams. And Yams really was the visionary that was like, he saw it before I really did, because I wasn't necessarily in it to be Rocky's manager. Yams was like, nah.
Yams pulled you in.
You gonna be, he told me. He literally told me, like,
he said he would go to the store and he'd be like quoting lyrics. You said like he knew about your records.
Yo, he would send me, Yams would send me
Scientific Days.
This nigga would send me Source magazine articles at like 3:00 in the morning. Like, Land Speed Records would do like compilation ads and shit like that. Like we have like a thumbnail. Niggas would charge us like $7,500 for that little thumbnail. Fucking bastards. Bob Perry, no, peace to Bob Perry though, if he's out there. I don't know what's up with Bob Perry. Tell him I said peace, Bob.
Peace, Bob.
Nigga might be a venture capitalist right now. Like, I need some bread too. Like a little thumbnail in there. So he would send me like the fucking
Everything.
He would be like, yeah, I be knowing old head. I'd be like, how this nigga got this? He would have like old, Source magazines and shit from like 1996 through 2005, and that's what Yams would do. He'd be up late night, like smoking cigarettes, looking through shit,
right,
scanning pictures,
do you still have,
moments.
Being in business with Griselda, do you have the same expectation to take them where ASAP Mob has?
I mean, I don't. I've been doing it since I was 15. Like I said, I'm 45, so I don't think I'm as naive in regards to that. Do I have the same aspirations in terms of like I put the same thought and effort into it, but in terms of like goal line, like I don't sit here and say I want to make X amount of dollars per year like I do. To me, it's still art, and the art dictates that. And then how people react to it, which you can't always calculate. That's not really in the analytics. So I have the same intention. I want them to be stadium acts. And my intention is to get them to that point.
I teach Jay, I was like gonna have Griselda at the Super Bowl or something at the halftime show.
Oh shit. That would be motherfuckers like motherfuckers ducking like.
Don't let the Bills get to the Super Bowl either.
Oh, it's over. The Bills get to the Super Bowl. That'd be crazy. That'd be nuts. The Griselda NFL.
Hey yo, on the biggest stage.
Halftime.
That'd be scary. But Azima,
everybody that imitates Gun, like ever since I started working, everybody, they do the voice. Yo, he be talking like that. And do their hands like this. And like, I was at a meeting yesterday. I'm like, do you have to do the voice every time? He's like, yeah, I got to. It was Mike and Ron.
So, but how did back to the mob? Why was it? Because you said Brian Leach. Like, why was that the right place to go? Do you think that situation to sign that deal with RCA at the time? Did anybody else come close? Was it?
To be honest with you, like I said, I some people might sit here in front for you. I'm never going to front. Like it's probably a better question for Geno Sims.
Okay,
that's probably a better question for Geno Sims. But I have an immense amount of respect for Brian Leach. Period.
Polo Grounds, and that's who they signed to. Polo Grounds for that.
I have an immense amount of respect for Brian Leach. He's done a lot. He's got the longest running collaborative label with RCA, like I think in the history of the brand.
Oh wow!
And his brother's going on, if I'm not mistaken, 17, almost 18 years of business over there. So, people, in this game, man, it's weird. Like, I haven't done a lot of interviews and shit like that, and sometimes I kick myself in the ass because of that, only because there's things and movements and stuff that I've done that I've contributed to that I don't necessarily get any of the credit for. And you don't want the credit for your own personal benefit. As you guys both know, in this industry moving forward and like whatever your next opportunity is, a lot of time has a lot to do with where you just came from. And a lot of times people aren't in a position to like receive the leverage from some of the shit that they do. And a lot of times that's your own fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's funny because it's one of my sayings. I always say you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. Yeah. But sometimes you also have to, sometimes part of your negotiation is what you've advertised. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to advertise in order to leverage your negotiation. And I haven't really done a good job, in terms of like, if I'm looking at myself as a client, I haven't done a good job like over the years of like, hey, and I did that, right? Yeah. Or, I had a hand in that. It was my idea. Only because I felt like for so long I was an artist and self-scientific and an executive at a record company, and I felt like I didn't want motherfuckers to feel like I was trying to use my advantage as an executive to gain an advantage in the building, because then you start dealing with political shit because of that. But some of that was my own doing.
Do you think you're a better rapper than executive?
Yeah. Because I'm a creative executive. I don't approach this shit from like business first, but getting back to Brian, I think Brian was good because Brian was able to, like, the way that ASAP moved, Yams, Rocky, the way that they moved, because they were so new to the business, they needed somebody that understood how hard them niggas get down, just in general, period. And often for us, any of us get into this business when you have to get motherfuckers used to our nuances before they get to understand that you're an actual business. Before you're a businessman, that's hard to do. So, Brian did a lot of that because of his relationship in the building, and just because he's been through that shit, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, obviously Yams was involved to convince you to get down with ASAP Mob, but like, what about Rocky would impress you so much musically?
Musically, it was his pocket. The thing that made me wanna. He was clever, but it was pocket. It's like height in basketball. You can't teach height. Like you teach a motherfucker a great step back, you work on your form and all that shit. And you're 5'9" though, my G. Like it's not happening.
Your step back's not working.
Get that shit out of here. Like, right? But Rocky's like you know, obviously he's charismatic and handsome and all that shit. But the thing that made me want to work with him was like, yo, this motherfucker's pocket, like you can't teach that shit. Rocky, like the way his knack for getting in between the snare or some shit like that is like, and then his voice and shit like that. He's got an instantly recognizable voice, and like Guru said, it's mostly a voice. And when you got a voice and you got a pocket like that, it's hard to, you know, those are all your favorites. All your favorites have a voice and a great pocket, even if they just hitting the snare every time. All your favorites have a voice and a great fucking pocket. That's the thing that, you know, and when you can put emotion in a pocket, you know, you can convey emotion in a pocket, that's what makes a motherfucker exceptional. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You think about it, you know. That's you know. I don't want to get into it because y'all got a big platform, but that's the Tupac and Biggie argument.
Absolutely,
you know what I'm saying?
Of course,
that's the Tupac and that's what
emotive, lyrical, and emotive.
That's what it's based off of. But that's why people give Big so much credit when it comes to because he's able. His pocket was ridiculous, but then he'll say some shit. You'll be like, oh shit, like immediately, like yeah. So Rocky's pocket was the thing that made it was a song called oh man, Toast to the Lord or Toast to the God. It was like a freestyle over an old like Puffy beat or some shit like that. But it was shit where he was like whips and chains. It was a clever line, but his power was like, oh, this kid can rhyme. I was like, oh, he can really rhyme. It ain't just the young shit. This motherfucker can really rap. I was like, okay.
How did they get you to pop your shit on Keep It G on the mixtape?
Rocky and Yams was just like, because they would always come by the shop, and I'm the.
Oh, so you weren't even officially with them when you cut that vocal?
Not as a manager.
Okay.
No, I was with them. These my brothers. I was working with them on AC78 was doing marketing, but I wasn't Rocky's manager just yet. But we were just always
don't
together.
Let those devils mess with y'all.
Rocky Yams was just like, listen, you need to come talk that shit you always be talking to us all the time with your old ass. That was Yams. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, gave me an address to the studio. Told me to come up. It was like, Rocky was just like, just talk that shit. I was in there with smoking a blunt. He was like, yo, just talk that shit you be talking. You always be talking that shit to us anyway. Yeah.
With the mixtape being viewed as a classic right out the gate, was there pressure around the debut album or the idea of like, okay, now we got this deal as the rapper debut album? Like,
fuck yeah. I felt like it was pressure. Yeah. I mean, but Rocky probably say no, he cool as a motherfucker. But yeah, I feel like it was pressure. They had a lot. You could just feel with the ASAP brothers, man. You could just feel history. Yeah. Just to be real with you, I've been doing shit a long time, and then that was the first time probably at that level, and me having that much responsibility at that level, and just knowing like because I worked on Snoop projects or worked on obviously huge artists, but not had that much responsibility within the movement overall. That was my first like real experience having that much responsibility in a movement, a project that big, and you just felt it. Rocky was on tour with Drake, before he had an album out, so it just felt like hell yeah. It was like you had to have a responsibility to deliver some shit. Luckily, all I really had to focus on was helping him amplify the marketing and figuring out how to get all this creative shit he wanted to get done. Yeah.
But how do you battle this internal conflict? Because of course you were part of this group, Self Scientific, and I saw a quote you said that you make music for your head, not your ass.
Yep. But, still do.
But Rocky makes music for the ass.
Sometimes
and everything else.
Sometimes, but it's very heady though too. A$AP Rocky as an artist, like I used to get trip off that. Like people always ask me, like some of the older gods, people in the 5%, in the Nation of Gods and Earth community, used to ask me all the time, like, how you deal with that? Just like, but I'm like, and it's like I don't have no judgment when it comes to this, man. I don't, and it's fucked up because nowadays you have to scrutinize shit a lot more. But if I put my personal judgment, on my moral compass on who I actually engage with musically or even work with, there's a lot of shit I wouldn't do, man. I'm a Muslim, right? That I smoke marijuana, don't drink. It's lots of shit that I'm not a perfect Muslim. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I tend not to put my personal moral compass on shit. And then I actually enjoy, a lot of the music, I'm saying? That's for your ass. I just don't make it. I'm not good at it. You know what I'm saying? I'm good at making shit for you, make people think.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you make of the take that sometimes Rocky doesn't get his credit musically because of everything else around him, like the imaging, the fashion,
man,
yeah.
I think he doesn't get the credit because everything around's been so sensationalized, man. Like, you know, and it's easy to get into so much other shit about Rocky. Visually, he's compelling. You know, he's got a large crew. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of shit to get into when it comes to the brother, man. So, you know, I think it gets taken away from him because it's, well, that portion, the critical acclaim on the, I guess the, you know,
top MCs list.
Top MCs list and shit like that.
Drake Kendrick Cole thing, his name isn't involved in that. Or his name
well, I think it's two things. It's volume. Rocky doesn't put out a project every year. He tends to be more deliberate in the way that he works. So it's a lot, you know, just, you know, I can't say there's more that goes into it. I don't know what those brothers put into it, but I know that visually, you know, he coordinates the music and the sound and all that stuff takes time. Yeah. You know, it's not something you just put out, you know, and that brother, and he's very, very meticulous. He'll tell you, and he said in a lot of interviews, you know, 90% of his stuff is editing. So, you know, I just think here in Craig, people don't really take the time to delve into it. They always want to dismiss anybody that's highly popular unless your experience starts with something that's conscious or critically acclaimed. People don't take the time to delve into your shit. People don't know that B.O.B. was a dope lyricist. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they're too busy thinking about airplanes and, you know, whatever the fuck the songs he got out. So.
But I felt like Rocky got a little. The last one, he just put it out. He was like, "I put New York on the map on the single of the last one."
No lies. I mean, yeah.
But you know, I draw a parallel.
No, for this, I mean, for the last. Listen, and this is no bias, man. Like, you can say what you want to. You know, hip hop. We have paradigm shifts and outliers in hip hop and shit that we can look back. You know, people like ourselves, the real critical analysts and nerds, the people that be like, all we want to do is talk about this shit all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, we sit back and go, you know when this shit started?
Yeah.
You know when this shit started? When the New York
shift, yeah.
When all this shit shifted. We can tell it's 2010.
Yeah.
All this shit shifted in 2000. I'm talking about Wiz Khalifa, Drake, fucking Kendrick Lamar, ASAP Rocky, Mac Miller, J. Cole, fucking Danny Brown, all this shit, right? Everything that we consider critical right now. And that was almost 10 years ago. It's 2019.
Yeah, they're veterans now. They're 10-year vets in the game.
These are the big homies now. Now kids, I know, I'm telling you. They be like, yo, man, I grew up to you. Be fucking them up. Like, they don't know what to say. Like, but the truth is, like, these, like I said, these 10-year gap now. These dudes are all veterans and have created like really compelling fucking art. But it started from a place where they were outliers for a new generation.
Yeah,
you know, it was like Tumblr was popular, SoundCloud wasn't even hitting just yet. Everybody was just being discovered. YouTube was just getting to its most hyper point. Hadn't really gotten there yet. So all these guys kind of broke. And, you know, I don't know if the point was with that.
No, but a lot of people think with the New York thing too, like I draw a parallel with you, like you always talked about in your self-scientific days, you and producer Khalil who went on to have mega hits. And you were saying how your sound, you grew up in an environment, but you didn't talk about the gangbang culture. You didn't talk about cars. Like you talked about more, you know, deeper themes and like was more a little political tinge to it or whatever, the conscious rap to it.
For sure.
And it didn't pop the same way. It was kind of LA. It was a different sound from what you think of as LA.
Right.
And much was made of Rocky that he doesn't have this traditional New York sound.
Absolutely.
Why is he drawing from the South? Why is he drawing from these places?
Word.
Like, you know, could the new sound in New York be somebody who doesn't sound like it came from?
I think it is. I think it is. I mean, shit. The current sound, I don't want to coin it the new, but the current sound of Brother Pop Smoke.
Yeah, Pop Smoke.
He sound like he's from like London or some shit. If I, you know what I'm saying? If I didn't know, I could just the sound and feel of it. Like like, you know, obviously it sounds like some New York shit once you get into it. But at first glance, you're like, that don't sound like traditionally what I know. You know, I'm an honorary Brooklynite. I'm a fake Brooklynite. So that don't sound like no Brooklyn shit to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not off top. Not off top, but it does.
But what did you make of Rocky drawing from that sort of screwed up and all these different kind of influences in his content?
Luckily, like having a store on the Lower East Side, because I had a store called Prohibit in Lower East Side, and I saw that. You know, a lot of the kids were influenced by shit outside of New York at the time. At that particular time, there wasn't a lot inside of New York that was influencing young New York kids, like 14 to 24-year-old New York people weren't necessarily influenced by a lot of New York shit. It was shit outside of New York, you know, and really I think, you know, there's a couple of social cues that led to the ushering of that. Like New York, y'all was late on the syrup. Y'all was late on the lean. And that time, you know what I'm saying, like 2008, 2010, is when you kind of starting to get heightened. You start to see, you know, New York going to a heavy, in my opinion, I could be wrong, Southern influence. And prior to that, you know, and then I just think that YouTube and obviously iTunes and shit like that just open audiences up to other influencers. You didn't have to, you know, get your influence from a mixtape or Hot 97.
So why did you guys stop working? You had all the success.
Who?
You and Rocky.
We stopped working probably, man, I'm gonna be real, probably just because I probably started to get a little burnt.
Burnt as far as what goes?
I've been doing this shit a long time, and Rocky's my little brother.
Right.
So, you know, I think, you know, I probably in order to salvage the relationship that we have as friends, probably need to stop working as business partners. Right. That's it. That's way more important to me than the music.
Is that ever difficult? Is that a difficult conversation?
Of course. It's always a difficult conversation, but not when you actually real friends. Right. Like, you know, I really consider Rocky family. Like, it's not even like, you know, people say that shit cliche. You know, the industry is very fickle and people say a lot of shit just to cover up, you know, emotions and shit. But I don't say that with any, like, I really mean that. That's really my brother, so.
It must have been tough to see him go through this sweetest situation.
Man, one of the toughest things I ever seen, man. Like, just because I know he became a part of some other shit. Like, they tried to make it, you know, that whole, you know, that was just hard to watch. Yeah. Just period, you know? For real. It really was, just seeing that shit. And then it was just the first time I wasn't, in the mix, I didn't have something to do, so my natural instinct was like,
like you fly to Sweden, get it done. Like,
so I was driving everybody in this camp crazy too.
Are you doing this? Are you doing that?
No, I wasn't doing that. Okay. I was just hitting him like, yo, what's good with my little bros? You good?
So you guys weren't in contact at that time? When he was locked up?
100%. Well, I couldn't talk. Nobody was in contact with him at the time. Shit. He was out of contact at the time.
Nobody's no longer in the manager capacity, but then your friend goes through that situation.
Yeah, that's my friend. Like I said, it was my friend before I became his motherfucking manager. It's my, you know, it's my brother. That's the reason why I think Yams was like, if he read old articles and shit like that, that's all he ever says. Because I used to ask him too, like, why you wanted me to? Because he used to be like, man, because I know because you wasn't motivated. You never asked him for money. You know. I think Yams felt like, I think Yams felt like I wanted to help protect them more than anything.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when Trump got involved in the whole situation?
That was interesting to me. That was interesting to me, you know. What can I say, man? It's a lot. The rainforest is burning.
Right. But now that Rocky's back on American soil, have you guys connected?
100%. 100%. Like I said, in terms of ASAP Rocky, man, that's my little brother, man. Like, for real. And everybody in the ASAP mob are not even my little brother. Those are my brothers, period. Yeah.
So you feel, the final question, I guess, you feel like you've done your tenure, you've done your service to the brothers, and it's like
I think I've done my tenure in several movements. You know, I managed DJ Khalil, who's my best friend and my partner.
I didn't know you managed them too. Okay.
I managed DJ Khalil. Me and Zach Katz negotiated his first 10-song deal with Aftermath and Dr. Dre, which led to that.
Some hits on there. Hits.
You know, but he's been there. He's been fucking with Dre for, I don't know, they great friends now.
Yeah.
But we did that. I managed Strong Arm Steady and I fake managed Exhibit for about 2 months. Me and Big Boy for a little while. Exhibit probably like when, but whatever. You know, I've done a lot of shit, man. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thing. I think that's what I realized. Like in terms of like my position or stance in the game, whether it be creatively or administratively as a manager, like that's kind of what I do. You know, I aid artists in amplifying their messages and achieving the shit they want to get accomplished. That's what I was able to do with ASAP Rocky, what I'm currently doing in ASAP Mob, what I'm currently doing now with Griselda, what I was able to do with Strong Arm Steady and DJ Khalil and Haroon.
So are you retired as a rapper?
No, not at all.
Because we see grown men making dope albums now. We see grown men. What do you make of that? Like it seems like it used to be. We come from the era where like, rapper in their 40s
Well,
he's over. He's on the Budweiser Superfest. But now we see grown men.
Luckily, like B-Dot said, luckily we never really had to. We was always talking about like some shit. So there's a lot of shit to talk about. Who else do you want to hear talk about the fucking rainforest?
You mentioned Sean Go Steady, so you gotta be super proud of Crondon what he's doing.
Oh man, like you don't even know, bro. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, alhamdulillah, brother, we all in a great place. Like most of us are. Some of our brothers are still, going through the trials and tribulations of life, but luckily brothers like myself and Kron in a position to help. Yeah. Of course. Right. Kron is like, we all proud of Kron. It's like, you crazy? His brother on T's like you're a villain. Like, what the fuck? This is Kron down from Strong Arm Steady. The path, like, they need to do a movie on us. The path that we all, like, for real.
What is he currently in? People that don't know?
Black Lightning.
He's on Black Lightning. Yeah. Tuesdays and CW. He plays Tobias Well, who's the chief villain. And honestly, he steals a fucking show. It should be called Black. It should be called Tobias Well. It should be called the Crondon Show. Tobias Well. I tell him that shit all the time. He's gonna be mad at me for saying that shit, but it's true. It's his fucking show. That's my brother.
Well, back to Grown Man Rap. I know you're part of Self Scientific. You once upon a time said you're gonna release Fear and Propaganda.
Yeah.
You put out some snippets here and there. But
yeah, it's coming out.
It's coming out.
We're doing it. We Fear and Propaganda is the name of the record. We've been probably loosely saying that to our fans for, 5 years. But it's actually, 11 songs. It's almost completely done. That's about it, man. It's dope as shit, though. Just me and DJ Khalil. It's a lot of every time I play with people, it's like, it's a lot of information. But I'm like, but that's why I'm like, fuck it. That's what it's. But luckily, I have no intention at all. I was talking to Devin from Nature Sounds about this because he was like, so what are we doing? Because, we put out releases with them in the past. So I was like, man, I have no intention other than I just want to put this shit out. Really.
And you say you got to get your catalog in order too, because you go to YouTube, it's a party.
We took everything down on purpose because we have all the masters now, and it was just people we didn't know making money off of it. So most of the shit you see up there now is not really us, but we have all the new masters, and we'll put everything up with the new project.
I felt like you got kind of disenchanted with music a little bit after Nipsey died. I saw the post that you put on Twitter. You said Nip was an inspiration and example for you, and this shit hurts. Moments like this, you tend to question your people and your motives, and then you said you're done with this rap shit. Yeah, like
it's funny as fuck. I read that today.
Yeah, did you really feel like you were done at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm done in general. Like what I mean is, with the rap shit is just like this overarching mentality that permeates throughout the culture, regardless of what section that you stand in. You with the artsy niggas, you over here with the gangsters, you over here. Like, there's this overwhelming, there's all this overarching, like, attitude or sentiment, that's some ways ruled by violence, Yeah. That's something else I realized, our perspective as Americans, how we look at shit, even when I was looking at what happened to Brother Rocky in Sweden, it's like, all of us, me included, I was like, yeah, you follow a motherfucker for 15 minutes, what'd you think? like, of course, yeah, right? But that's because we're desensitized to violence, right? We tend to feel as though that's, and I do too. I'm American. I grew up here, so I feel like you follow me 15 minutes, I tell your ass no and no over and over again.
It's going down, yeah.
Right, but you gotta realize outside of here, nobody looks at that shit like that, right? We fucking savages compared, how they look at it. So I kind of, same lens that in terms of the Nipsey shit. It's just like, man, like we can look at that shit and say, damn, and particularly in the 60s in that area, brothers might get killed all the time in a violent manner. But some things that happen just make you go, God damn, bro, like, and I can't blame rap only. So I'm not saying I'm done with the rap. Like, I'm blanketing rap as a problem overall. But I'm old enough and qualified enough within this shit to say, like, I know this shit that has roots in the shit that I love. I love this shit. It's like, what I'm saying? I know I'm a nerd about this shit. I have a hyper intelligence about this shit, same way you guys do. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes, and I think some of that is fueled by my own part in it. Like, that's what I mean. Like, fuck. Yeah. Like, I'm not done listening to rap, but with the rap shit, like, it's just sometimes it's 45 and doing this shit for 30 years. Sometimes you wonder, what else can you do to make this type of living?
But I know it must have hurt to you because you're somebody who's community driven too. Like, Leimert, what's the area?
Leimert Park.
Leimert Park. You're very building businesses out there, kind of parallel to Nipsey, like in terms of community and stuff. So it's also disappointing to see like that go down in someone's community when you see somebody who's trying so much to empower his area?
100%. That was a lot of the sentiment that went into it. Is if that could happen to Nip, nobody's safe. Period. I don't care where he's from. Yeah. Nip did way too much for that to even be a possibility. Yeah. Like, you know, for what that man did and stood up. Like, we all know the examples of brothers that do shit or come from places and don't come back around. You know, and when they do, it's only for the purposes of showing the people that they grew up around what they got that's new. That wasn't necessarily, you know, that wasn't what Nip was doing at all. He was doing the direct opposite, like actually empowering people and shit. So when you see that happen, man, it's just, you start to think like, well, shit, I definitely ain't safe there. That's Nipsey Hussle. Who the fuck am I? Like, for real.
Khalil was involved with Victory Lap as well, right?
Khalil, yes, for sure.
Did, rap niggas and
so Mike and Keys, who worked on with Nips a lot. So Mike and Keys' manager is a brother named Reese, who's from San Diego, Reese Cup. He's a partner and manager. Reese Cup is from the same neighborhood as Missy Slick. Missy Slick, Reese Cup, all of us at Strong Arm State, we all been brothers for a long time. So when Mike and Keys work with Nipsey, they would go to Khalil's studio a lot. You know, Khalil developed a way of producing that a lot of people, you know, use a lot, but people used to come to him a lot because he learned from doing a Candy Bar record by Keith Murray that when you sample, you don't really get paid. So he started hiring. So he started. Wow. So he started hiring musicians to just play instead of, you know, fucking doing, instead of sampling, so he just interpolate it. So he hired musicians, you know, pardon me, Daniel C. from the Institute of Jazz, the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz, Stephon Harris, all these dope ass musicians. He recreated it. Just recreate shit. So he's been doing that shit now for, you know, a lot of people don't know. That's what Khalil did a lot for people is design sounds. Khalil's he's an incredible producer, but he really designs sounds, and he'll jam for 3-4 hours, collect all these pieces of music. So now, you know, 10, 12 years later, people come to him to get the pieces of music. So that's how Khalil got involved in the production of Nipsey, because he was working with Mike and Keys, and then him and, you know, so yeah.
What are some of your favorite Khalil productions?
Oh man. You know, it's crazy. Kind of Like a Big Deal is one of my favorite beats. The Clips. Yeah. Still Kill, actually, 50 Cent. People forget about that.
Yeah, people slept on that. That's hot.
Yeah, Still Kill. Fuck. You see, I'm gonna name some shit y'all wouldn't think of.
I like that.
And like,
I was Wikipedia and Khalil. I was like, damn, I forgot he did that.
Oh yeah, you forgot? No, he got some shit. Khalil got like 5 Grammys or some shit over there. He's a big deal, like for real.
The catalog is crazy.
Yeah. He's got an unreleased joint called Colors that he did for Nas.
Ooh.
That's not on the Lost Tapes.
Nas, that Lost Tapes. You need the Lost Tapes.
Yeah, like, I don't know why that's not on the Lost Tape. It's amazing. You know, Nas, he describing the colors of the street signs and people the same, you know, all this shit is like his it's crazy. It's
got that on your phone too?
Nope. But I got some shit though. I watched Stretch and Bobbito's
the documentary
the other day. I was like, yo, I got inspired. I was like, yo, we need a radio show that just plays unreleased shit all the time. Right. Don't take my idea titles.
That's what Instagram's for these days. What made you decide to run a coffee shop now in Leimert Park?
White people love coffee.
I thought it was a biscuits tea or whatever.
No, so I live in Leimert Park. Leimert Park is a historically black area in South Los Angeles that was built in the late 1920s by the Walter H. Leimert Company. Black people weren't intended to be there unless you were a servant or a butler before, right? The Walter H. Leimert Company, they built this community intending to show like the perfectly planned community and all this extra shit. The same motherfuckers that built Larchmont out here. You know Larchmont? Are you guys familiar with Larchmont? I know you guys from out here.
I know Leimert Park because of Dom Kennedy. That's
okay. So right, and I tell Dom this all the time. Like most people, the modern representation or what you have, your representation of, or your idea of what Leimert Park is, probably was formed through the lens of Dom Kennedy, because Dom was, you know, the person, you know, they kind of
put it on the map,
made you feel, and the type of person that Dom is, super cool, laid back. Like that's generally what Leimert is.
He's on a lifestyle with his music. You felt like you felt like you were in California. We listened to Dom Kennedy.
Exactly, and that's really what Leimert is. You know, and the feeling you get from Dom Kennedy's music is, you know, overwhelmingly what you get from Leimert Park. And there's another component, which is the extra black component of it, right? We have, a small contingency or a huge contingency of people in Leimert that are lobbying to get it referred to as Africatown because there's a huge African identity. 43rd place is referred to as People Street or Sankofa Street, and it has Ndinkra symbols all over it, and a lot of elders in the neighborhood like Mr. Washington and brother Sika Dwimfu, who's been known for a long time to do the Leimert Park Heritage Festival, and just people that have been pivotal in cultural and social economic developments and movements in South Los Angeles have been anchored in Leimert Park. So that mixed with what you really know of Dom is like the real feel for Leimert. It's John Singleton had an office there, rest in peace, and for 25 years.
So why does Chace have a coffee shop there?
For those reasons. When you talk about the Los Angeles is unique because it's 508 square miles, and like New York, you can walk by the places that are historical or cultural. If I want to walk by, the Street Academy, I can just walk by it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like I could get out the cab, not look that inconspicuous. Most of our stuff out here, it's a destination you got to go through. You just can't pop up and walk through the middle of the city. You can, but most of the time they're gonna be like, where you at? So I try to go to an area where I wanted to go back to the area where that was known for, and the knock that we always get in Los Angeles that we don't have any culture, especially my brothers from New York. You always say, yeah, I fuck with LA. You know what I mean? Like you can never get no culture, which means basically for y'all, there's no Jamaican food, no Spanish food. There's nowhere to get incense or oils or, shit like that. Yeah. But Leimert Park is that. When you talk about, so it was built in the 1920s, but it became popular probably in the 1960s. People started migrating over Leimert Park in the late 50s after and buying land and then subleasing it to white people because you couldn't necessarily live over there just yet, even though people were going to school and shit over there. So everybody kind of migrated there after the Watts riots. So it became this, because once white flight happened, everybody came and populated. So it became like this cultural hub. Dale Davis and his brother started the Brockman Gallery there. They championed artists like David Hammonds and all this, a lot of cultural black artists were championed there. The World Stage, where people like Kamal Daoud and Durf Reclaw and, a lot of people in the jazz movement, jazz and spoken word movements kind of came from. So when you talk about a lot of the stories that fuel New York, when you talk about, the shit that you always hear, what I'm saying, that you don't hear about Los Angeles that much. A lot of those stories come from two places. Watts on the east side, which is the motherland for Los Angeles, basically. Everybody kind of migrated from there. And then on the west side is the only place, the only bastion of like culture really is Leimert Park.
Yeah. So how's it going with the coffee shop thing? You feel like, I saw Rihanna, you got Rihanna's pop. You have the star guests every once in a while, but
that's just a result of us working in this industry, man. Rihanna is actually really, really, really close friends with my girl. And she, came through as a result of that. And, everybody just comes through because obviously I worked in the industry for a long time. My family's been around Los Angeles since 1958. I live about 300 yards from the coffee shop. So it's just some real people always know they can catch me or catch somebody else. They come there looking for your ass. Y'all heard you was on there. What's poppin'? Y'all got to come do a podcast. You got to come.
Yeah, y'all had Raphael Sadiq listenings or something. You see that?
I'm not a coffee guy. I drink some tea.
You can have tea.
I got tea. I got smoothies. I got vegan donuts. I got food. I got all type of shit. I got clothes. I got art. Type of shit.
God damn,
and you got clothes too. What's up with this clothing line?
We got clothing line, man. Harun International is a clothing line I've been doing.
That shirt looks like it could be part of the
collection.
Definitely, it definitely looks like a Harun shirt. I've been doing that since 2009. That's part of the reason why I met Rocky.
Oh wow!
So I was doing a bunch of stuff at this store that I had in New York called Prohibit NYC. And I've been doing clothes, fragrances, shit like that.
So your foundation is just kind of entrepreneur in a sense, a lot of ways.
At the core, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative entrepreneur. Yeah. That's what my resume says. Yeah.
How do you look at that new generation? Like you're part of these movements, right? Now you're part of this Griselda movement and seeing how far it is. But more the typical thing, like how do new artists break through this noise? People that want to know about the game, like if you look at the landscape now, how do people break through?
Consistency, and once you get an audience, identifying the audience and feeding them consistently. Because it's not about before when you said that, it's like that has changed over years, right? Before that used to mean like industry buzz. Yeah. How do you create an industry buzz in order to get people like B-Dot and Elliot to talk about me so I can get Paul Rosenberg
we tweet about it all day.
Right, or whatever. Before the tweet even, you know what I'm saying? Like, because once we got to the tweets and I think now that was what enabled you to actually create your own economy. There's artists that we all are just discovering that have real economies that make, between $1.6 to $3 million a year between merch and touring and blah, 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 blah. And that's on the low side. Yeah. And then there's artists that are making, 2 or 3 times of that and there's artists that are 2 or 3 times bigger than that aren't making that economy. It's a really weird time in terms, and I find that just analyzing it, there's really the artists that are consistent. And once you identify your consumer and, being consistent with them, because before it would be like, okay, well, let me go try to deal with B-Dot so I can get 2% of B-Dot's audience. And let me go I find that creates, with these consumers nowadays, I find that consistency and authenticity is the key, right? So the consistency lends towards your authenticity. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The more consistent you are, and even if it's not authentic, they'll accept it if it's consistent. Yeah. I don't want to name names, but we know a lot of examples of motherfuckers. You're like, you're fucking for real? This only because he's the only thing available consistently. Yeah. Like everybody else is overthinking and shit. It's like this motherfucker every 9 months, like or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and it's really about.
So there's no concern about the idea of oversaturation and things like that. There's no concern about that.
To an extent. I think it's harder to determine what the point of oversaturation is now, because people don't consume as long. They don't. And
they don't get stuck in it if they don't.
And it's hard to get a gauge on when people actually truly check out and check back in. You know what I mean? Is that I think that's where some of the analytics are useful. I tend not to give into the analytics too much, but I think that's where they're useful. When you start to see like after in the life of a project, not so much during the beginning, but in the life of a project, when you start to see. When people check back into some shit. Yeah,
because it's sustained interest.
What traits does a person need to have to be a good manager?
Be patient. And I had no patience getting into this shit.
As far as what? Like success?
You're dealing with people and you're managing. The definition of a manager, as I was taught, was to exploit people's talent for monetary gain. So if you're able to exploit people's talent for monetary gain or find opportunity to exploit their talent for monetary gain or create one, then cool. But besides that, you're managing somebody's personal life and ambitions. I'm literally in charge of orchestrating your dreams. So if you're not patient, sometimes, depending on who the person is, like, I'm biased you to tell me, what do you want to do, Elliot? What do you see yourself? I'm sure he would tell me, like, whoever the biggest person in media ever was, that's me. That's who I want to be, right? So I have to figure out a way based upon Elliot's DNA and what he has currently to navigate a course for him to grow every step of the way to get to being bigger than Howard Cosell. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
But do you think it's easier now that Griselda, a little bit older than Rocky and those guys when they first started, so it's easier to navigate?
No. Oh. I don't think, Ice-T taught me at 23 that, you get old in the music industry once you're like 22, 21, and not because of your age, because you're outside of the perspective that's influencing the music. So it's not easier. No, I think it's a harder task the older you get in order to create that impression. I think it's actually harder because people forgive you less. You know what I mean? You know, when I'm 17 and I'm doing certain things and wearing certain shit and dancing a certain way, you like, and at 32, you're not gonna persecute me as much as you would for the shit I'm doing at 28. Right. Like you'd be like, you knew me, I was 4 years ago. Right. 17, if I'm like, you're like, you're gonna give me a pass. Like, all right.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, all right, he was young.
Yeah.
And at 28, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's less time to actually grow as a person. Sometimes you have to be pretty straightforward what you want from this shit. I think the older you get.
Do you think we get too caught up in the whole idea of discovery? Like, does Chace Infinite need to find the next young star?
Yeah, I think
18, 19, 100%. And, like, guide him.
I personally do. I think we get too caught up in discovery or who the next whatever is, but that's also an industry thing. I try to separate my thoughts from the music and the industry sometimes, The music is ordained by the creator and the industry is mechanical, some shit we make up. Try to get to a finish line or market share or, 100,000 first week or whatever fuck it is. I try to concentrate more on the shit that the actual music. Yeah.
So it's coming down to that simply. That it would have to hit a young artist to make you actually generally just fuck with.
Yeah, on some real shit.
Figure out what's going on.
Yes, I want to fuck with some shit that feels like that. And I don't want to say ethos because that feels like I'm giving it too much weight. But some shit that just moves me, that just makes me feel good. Period. Point blank. That's just it. It makes you feel good, or it makes me want to feel like punch somebody in the face. But it's got to be poignant in that regard. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's all I mean. Like, just I got weird taste, man. I just want to fuck with shit. I want to continue to. I've been lucky. Like I said, I'm 45. And, I've been blessed to have been working in this industry and made money doing things that I honestly love.
That you would do for free.
That I would do for, and I have done for a long time for fucking free. And so I just want to continue to do that. And I think, Griselda, and I got this kid named King B that's signed to RCA. That's really, really dope. He's from St. Louis. He's, I guess you would put him in the same categories you put some of these young artists, but he's dope as shit. He's got a song called Licks right now that's out, and a song called No More Crying. We signed him to a company called 607 Entertainment, to RCA not too long ago.
Yeah, baby.
Not too long. Yes, sir. Peter Edge, say what's up to them. Yeah, that's it, man.
But you're not putting pressure like I have to have these many artists, so it's a case-by-case thing.
It's more about, like I said, I'm a creative executive. So, I consult with companies, I work with artists on a managerial basis, but I think the partnership that we did with Roc Nation enables Hop and I to focus more on our strengths rather than, booking travel or shit like that. We're more focused on what we're good at. People know that hip hop is one of the best A&Rs in the history of this shit and has some of the best ears ever. And in terms of like taste level and being able to figure out how to disseminate messages to audiences, I've become pretty good at that shit. Just, so between us two, I think we have what's necessary to take, and it probably wouldn't work for every artist. That's why, we're not working with, but people like a West Side Gun, when you have people that are, and Conway and Benny, that have parts of them that are somewhat foreign to the current hip hop audience, but are nostalgic and regular to us. Right. It's like, you kind of got to get people that knew how that shit impacted us before to do the shit. Yeah. So I want to work with groups like that, and we continue to do that shit.
Absolutely. We'll continue to do it, man. I think you should do more interviews like this, man. Only with quality people, though.
I appreciate that. I doubt it. I've been knowing you for a minute, and I'll probably say way too much already.
Before we get out of here, Benny the Butcher, where is he right now in the game?
Oh, he was top MCs? You put him in what? Number 3?
I give him at number 3.
He has Freddie Gibbs.
Number 2, 3. I got Freddie Gibbs today at number 1.
B-Dot, you like starting fights. I see the type of kid you was.
Things are subject to change always.
Freddie Gibbs is my brother. You'll get no arguments from me. Freddie Gibbs, if you study self-scientific history, we have a song.
The song with Freddie Gibbs and Crondon.
We got a song called Peaceful with my brother Freddie Gibbs. So these accolades that he's receiving currently are nothing new to me. He's heard this from me for years and years and years and years and years. He's received public praise from me for years.
Okay, let's just say top 5 MCs right now that are nice. Like get the
Black Thought is the best MC.
Get the stamp. No particular order. Black Thought.
Black Thought.
Now explain Black Thought, because some people we're talking freestyles. That's one thing, but like records, everything, the Roots catalog, everything.
Listen, I don't care how you break. You can listen. Y'all can break this shit down to like song, freestyle. I'm listening to me. Category, however you want to determine this shit. It's still rhythm and poetry, right? It's what rap is. That's what Rakim said.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're basing off that criteria alone, to me, the best motherfucker with
solidify
a breath.
So when he does like that flex freestyle, it's just like told you motherfuckers.
See when you say freestyle, define freestyle.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't a freestyle. Parts of that were off the head, but that wasn't a freestyle. And that's what I mean when you say the best MC. I've been knowing this man since 1998. You know what I'm saying? And he's been at the same level of awe-inspiring fucking raps in your face since I've known him, since 1998.
Can always deliver.
Matter of fact, he's gotten better and more like his style is becoming like, it's like we all used to use way too many words. Now he just destroy you with like 12 words. Like it's a rap. I judge motherfuckers like I'm different because I'm a wordy MC too, right? Yeah. So I judge people different. Like if I can remember your raps,
it was too easy.
but when I know you said 1,000, I was like, I can't remember how this nigga said this shit. Like, oh my God, I got and that's what just like, people always say like, because I have this argument. They go, but I can't remember what he said. Give me like, I'm like, but nah, see, that's why though.
So you got
I can't remember what fucking Maya Angelou's first 4 bars are either. Okay? That's the fucking point. Her shit is ill. You gotta read it.
You got Thought. Who else? Who rounds at the top 4?
Gives Benny's.
Let me see. I'm gonna say just. You gotta give me a minute. Y'all ain't got too much fucking time. I gotta think. It's a lot of shit. A lot of pressure on me right now. I just know Black Thought is my number 1 pick.
I know.
Currently, Benny's on that list.
Benny's on that list, 100%. Conway's on that list too, though.
That's 3.
Conway's ridiculous.
Yeah, Kanye's nice.
They're like separate sides of the same coin. I mean, Kendrick Lamar's ridiculous.
TD's on his head every time he talks.
Shout to Punch.
Put Gibbs on top of Kendrick. Put Gibbs over Kendrick.
I mean, first of all,
I've never get to the TD.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean when you say that. You mean in terms of like right now. I mean, Kendrick hasn't put out anything recently, but come on now, B. But come on now, B.
Kendrick is definitely in it. I've said,
and no disrespect to my brother,
I've said Kendrick is in the top 10 of all time GOATs already. He's solidified.
We don't appreciate Kendrick enough, man.
I agree. I think he's top 10.
You tweeted that once, I think.
Really
you tweeted that once. What do you mean? He gets the Grammys. He's like the Grammy man.
Nah.
He's Grammy man.
Nah.
After the Macklemore shit, he gets every Grammy. The winner is Kendrick Lamar. He beat Jigga in the front row. What are you talking about?
Shit like this. Shit like this.
I love Kendrick.
Even with all that, he still got the nerve to be like, but that's what I mean. Like, we don't appreciate this nigga enough, bro. Like, this motherfucker want
Is it because he
to. No dick riding at all. But I'm like, come on, this nigga want a Pulitzer.
Yeah, Pulitzer Kenny,
for
man.
a hip hop album, ladies and gentlemen. For a hip hop album.
What are you talking about?
He loves the thing. I think
What is Elliot?
him and B-Dot and Kendrick are actually really cool, and I think there's a lot of personal relationship there. And I think that
He
sometimes
just can't give it up to him. Be like, that's my man. I just can't. I just can't give it up.
If you're close to somebody, you get hard on them. Like it's just because they from the ground up. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I'll be doing the same shit.
And I think Kendrick loves it, but the other dudes get really mad about it. But I think it inspires
Kendrick's
Kendrick.
smart though. He also knows that. You know.
Kendrick
He'll
is
silence beat out one day. All right, give me one more.
One more for the
maybe
road.
somebody who we sleeping on. Who's nice that maybe he's not hitting anybody's radar yet. Like who you discover? Anybody on the low you think that isn't really out there like buzz-wise, but caught your eye a little bit?
Yeah, I really like Maxo. He had that record called Little Big Man.
Yeah, on Def Jam.
On
Shout out
Def
to
Jam.
him.
And that's what I mean. I think, and first let me say Maxo Cream's album is amazing too.
It is.
Period.
Yes,
that's my
yes,
brother.
I did a quartet with
Maxo and Toby's they're great.
Yeah.
But I'm Maxo, who I don't think he's probably in the shadow of Maxo Cream right now.
Yeah, he is.
But he's dope, man.
That Little Big Man
he got a
album
project
on
called
Def
Little
Jam.
Big Man. Brother Ty-Rock, who's from Detroit and has a lot of the same influence sonically and palette wise as Dilla did. Like it just feels like I said, like my favorite period. It was probably 96 to 2001.
Yeah.
It's a great period for me, even though it's not necessarily what I consider the golden area. For me, it's my favorite period.
Yeah.
And what we're going through right now with some of these underground and the shit that you're starting to hear feels like that. And Maxo kind of like makes me feel like I like that shit.
Well, I like this interview, man.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Chase. Appreciate you, homie.
Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.
Brother, thank you, brother.
Chase Infinite.
Yep.
Yes,
Rap
sir.
Radar Podcast.
Yo.